Hey guys, welcome to this video, and here I'm going to show you how you can create a chart with various different stocks. Well, we have one stock here. This is just the Amazon stock, and I'm going to show you how you can create a chart that dynamically gets the data from the server. We have a free API for the stock market server, and we get this information and plot it down in the chart. And right now, as of July 16th, Amazon stocks are worth a little over $2,000. So we can zoom in, right click to zoom back out, and this is for the last 100 days, so it's about a little over a month, over 3 months. And we have, if we look closer, we have March 31st, April 1st, April 2nd, April 3rd, and it goes on, and it's on a daily basis for the last 100 days. So I'm going to basically go over how we can create this little application using React.js and the stock market API. And if we go back to our code and I change it to, for example, Microsoft, and refresh the page, then Microsoft is about $140 as of today, and it's been going up the last 100 days as well. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create a new React app. So we're going to go to our folder and say create React app, and I'm going to say practice 4 because that's where the folder I'll be creating this application in is. And let's just wait for that to go forward. Okay, so now our React app is installed. Let's move into our folder. Of course, I'm using VS Code for my code editor or IDE, in case you're wondering. And yeah, let's get started. So the first thing I want to do is go open our source folder, and I'm going to create npm start, which is going to refresh the screen on the right or create a new bar. New tab, and I'm going to go to app.js and delete all of this since we don't need any of it. Delete this too. And then we're going to create a new component called stock. I haven't created it yet, but I will in a moment. Just gonna put that right there. Go import stock from stock and create a new full file called stock.js. Import React from React. Then we're going to create a component class called stock, extends React component. And export default stock. And we're going to create a little render down here, return and just say div with h1 saying stock. Create stock market, and not sure why it's not showing up. Go to console log. Stock market, there you go. I had autosave off, so turn that back on. The reason I had autosave off was because the API call only allows, the free version only allows 5 API calls per minute and 500 API calls max per day. So I didn't want to overload the server. Actually, I think I'm going to do the same thing right now because I'm not sure how many of it I have been using today so far, and I don't want it to end abruptly mid-tutorial. So I'm going to go back to stock.js, and first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a constructor to store our states in. So constructor props, super props, and this state stock chart x values and stock chart y values. This is for later when we are going to create our chart. We need the x values and the y values, so we're going to store them in separate arrays, and we're going to add them back together when we're using the Plotly chart system we're using. So we're using two separate items here. We're using the API call from the stock market API, and we're using a chart. I could have used chart.js, but I didn't like how the lines are not straight and cornered, and they're instead of kind of curvy, which I don't want. I think stock market chart plots are more cornered, so that's why I used Plotly instead. That's why I used this one instead. And the way that it works is I have to have the x values and y values separated, so that's why I'm creating a state with x and y values separated. So we'll be using this a little bit later on. And when we have component did mount, I want to run the fetch API to or a function that will fetch the information from the API. So it's going to be called fetch.stock, fetch stock, create that right here, create the function. And there is an interesting thing that I want to point out. Actually, I'll just go through the tutorial and then you'll see what I mean later on. So the first thing I want to do is if I want to say I have to get the API key, right? So I have to go to, so basically I go to google.com, then I go to free stock API, and go to Alpha Advantage, and go to get your free API key today. And I'm just gonna create a random one, .vod or .vod, and then simonsprogramming@gmail.com. Checkbox, I'm not a robot. Get free API key, and I already have it, so I'm going to use this one right here. And you can feel free to use this one, but I'd highly advise you getting your own, because if everyone uses this one, it's going to get crowded. So I'm going to come back here and create a constant variable called API key and make that equal to this. And let API call is equal to, and we're going to go to documentation, and I think we are using daily adjusted, time series using daily adjusted. So I'm going to, you can read it in detail into this, but I'm just going to go ahead and copy. If I click on that one first, make sure I got the right one. So it has the date and the opening price, which is what we're going to use. So that's available, and it's on a daily basis, excluding the weekends. So that seems to be working. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this as reference. Backtick, paste it in. And the reason I'm using backticks is because I want to be able to copy in the API code right here directly. So API key. That makes use of the variable right here quickly, so that's all good. That's good, and then if we run this as an example, I'm going to go ahead and create a fetch statement. Like so, then API call, then function response, return the response in JSON format, please. Then in the next one, we're going to fetch the data. So function in data form. This is just how you guys do it. This is just how I do it. I'm not sure exactly how to explain the code, but this is how you fetch it. And this is where you fetch it in JSON form, and then you get it in a data variable on the next then statement. And then this one is a function. So I do console log data, just to show you guys that this is working. So right now we're searching for Microsoft stock variables. It's adjusted on a daily basis, so daily average. Output size, I want it to be compact because I just want the compact information. I think that's, yeah, compact. By option, compact and full are accepted with yeah, full. If I do full, it returns the last 20 years of historical data. I don't want that. I just want the last 100 days. So I'm going to type in compact there. And if I console log, I get the time series and I have the last 100 days of data. So for metadata, it says symbol Microsoft. I'm going to change that to Amazon just for the fun of it. So I'm going to say let stock symbol is equal to Amazon, and then I'm going to change that to Amazon or stock symbol. Now that that's refreshed, it's changed to Amazon, and I still have the 100-point data system of the last 100 days or so, slightly over the last 100 days since it's excluding weekends. So now that we have the symbol, I'm just going to exit out of that, exit out of this. I can go ahead and close everything else out. The next thing we want to do is we want to start putting it in the X values and the Y values. So we want to put it in here and here. And we're going to have we're going to have to be able to bind it from here to back outside here. So what I'm going to do is, it's not really binding, but we have to get the right location. So I'm going to create another constant here called pointer to this, and it's going to point to this. So what does that do? If I console log pointer to this, what does this do? If I go ahead and console log inspect, it brings back an object where we have the two states here, stock chart X values and stock chart Y values. And now that we have access to those two states, we can input values inside there. But first we have to get the values. So we're going to go ahead and down here, we're going to say so right now when we go to time series, we have the dates here, and each date has open time here, open time, open time, open time. So 2019 February 2nd, 22nd, that's the key. And if we hover over it, we have the tooltip come up that shows us the spaces in the time series daily in 2019-02-2022. That's the file path, or the directory path that you have to go towards to get these individual points of data. And because time series daily has spaces in between, and it's not it has spaces in between, we're going to show you how to go maneuver around the file path for that as well. So we're going to go to for variable key, which is the date, in data, and we're going to say time series daily. So for every single key in this so basically for every single key, so this date, 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 every single key, we're going to run this function, stock chart X values function push key. And we haven't created this variable yet, so I'm going to go ahead and create this right over here, and it's going to equal to empty variable, and create one for the Y values. So push key right there, and then we're going to also do it for the stock chart Y values. And for the Y values, I have to push something a little bit more detailed, because we're not just pushing the key, we have to push the actual value this time for the Y values, the price more specifically. So if I leave this open here so you can see that, we are going to go towards whoops, not there. Down here, we're going to go data, time series daily, then key, which is the date, and then we're going to go to it says one dot open. It specifically says one dot open. If we go back here, if we highlight over it, it says one dot open at the end. So we have to do that one dot open to get this key. So this is the key right here. This is the key. So I have to use that specifically. And then now that is done, so we can then set state. We can check if it did it correctly. So I'm going to console log stock chart X values, and that should work. Console log, if I save that, refresh, so I think, yeah, so all of the key values becomes or the dates gets stored. 100 point data gets stored into the X values, the X value function right there. So that's working. So we can go ahead and comment that out. And then we can say pointer to this set state and then say stock chart x values is going to equal to stock chart x value function, and same thing for the y values. So I'm just going to change that to y values. And then down here we can access those states. So as a demo, I'm just going to say p value x values is equal to I think this is how I access it. Whoops. This state dot stock chart x values. So we have all the x values, and if I do the same thing for y values, I get the same thing for y values. Well, y values just goes on horizontally. I'm not sure why it does that, but that's the price of the Amazon stock dating back to about 100 days ago. So I'm just going to comment these out since we don't need those as well. And then we are going to go ahead and type in Google React.js Plotly. This is the chart that we're going to use, and it kind of looks like this. That's kind of how it looks like. This is two different graphs put on the same chart. And I'm going to just go to React.js Plotly and go to the GitHub page. And to install it, I have to use this. So I'm just going to open my command line and say npm, open up a new command line, npm install react plotly.js. And then while we're waiting for that to happen, I'm just going to copy this to the top, top over here. And then I'm going to copy the plot area to get the exact same one as the variable. I'm just going to delete this. I'm going to plot, plot. Right now it's not going to work. Just refreshing, just give it a moment. It's using my CPU or GPU, I think. I think it's using my GPU to calculate that. I just heard my computer kind of running up a bit. So if we refresh this, there you go, we have a small graph. I'm just going to change this to 720 by 440. Refresh that so we have the ideal size. And then I'm just going to delete this because this is the bar chart and we don't need the bar chart, we only need the scatter plot chart. And here I'm just going to type in this state stock chart x values and this state stock chart y values and save. And that's pretty much it. So that's for the Amazon, and then we can go back up top. Let's change it to Facebook. What's Facebook? Facebook stock symbol. So it's $203. Facebook stock symbol is FB. So if we change that to FB, it goes up to about $200 and it's been down. So it seems like all the NASDAQ type, the technology companies are kind of on an upswing for the past 100 days. So if you did invest in all these companies about 100 days ago, you've gained about 20% of value overall, it seems, at least in Facebook, Microsoft, and Amazon. So congratulations if you've done that. If you're just here for the learning code part, then that's fine too. And then yeah, that's pretty much it. So you can do that and then go in closer and see it day by day. So this is pretty much for every single day. Then double right click out. So that's how you create a stock market tracker using the Alpha Advantage. I think it was Alpha Advantage API. Yeah, Alpha Vantage, not Alpha Advantage. Alpha Vantage API for the stock market system. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.